Hi, my name is Janmajay, and this is day 6 of my communication practice, and I'm reading this big book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. And this is one of the modern classics where the author talks about his experience in the concentration camp and the torture he endured during the Nazi Germany. He was basically based out of Austria, Vienna, and he was taken to a camp which was not a famous one. Auschwitz, we all know about the horrors that has been played in Auschwitz, and people generally used to have horror, horrified by the name of Auschwitz. But this is by a person who was in a common, not so famous or infamous camps, but in a like a low-key camp where he endured these sufferings. And in the second part of the book, he talks about the logotherapy, because the author was basically a psychiatrist by training, and he had a PhD, and he was basically had a lot of degrees in psychiatry. And he initially thought that he will publish this book anonymously, but later on he put his name, and this became one of the modern classics of the 19th and 20th century, basically 20th century, right? So I'm just starting the reading part. Nearly everyone in our transport lived under the illusion that he would be reprieved, that everyone would yet be well. We didn't realize the meaning behind the scenes that was to follow presently. We were told to leave our luggage in the train and to fall in two lines: women on one side, men on the other, in order to file past a senior SS officer. SS is basically Nazi party. Surprisingly enough, I had the courage to hide my haversack under my coat. My line filed past the officer, man by man. I realized that it would be dangerous if the officer spotted my bag. He would at least knock me down. I knew that from my previous experience. Instinctively, I straightened on approaching the officer so that he would not notice my heavy load. Then I was face to face with him. He was a tall man who looked slim and fit in his spotless uniform. What a contrast to us, who were untidy and grimy after a long journey. So basically, the author was arrived at this camp after a long train journey where they were like filled like kettles, and they were not even able to see outside the train because the train compartment was filled with a lot of luggage, and they were sitting on top of that, and they had a slight view of the through the windows that okay, this is dawn or morning. And it was difficult travel, and like a place that was suited to fit 200 people, like 1500 people were filled at the same place at the camp. So yeah, this shows the contrast that okay, the officers there were like they have like tiddy spotless uniform, and the people who traveled for long, they had like very untiddy features and all. He had assumed an attitude of careless ease, supporting his right elbow with his left hand. His right hand was lifted, and with the forefinger of the hand he pointed very leisurely to the right or left. None of us had the slightest idea of the sinister meaning behind the little movement of my man's finger, pointing now to the right, now to the left, but far more frequently to the left. In my turn, somebody whispered to me that to be sent to the right side would mean work, and the left would mean left being for sick and those incapable of work, who would be sent to a special camp. I just waited for things to make their course, the first of many such times to come. My haversack weighed me down a bit to the left, but I made an effort to walk upright. The assessman looked me over, appeared to hesitate, then put both of his hands on my shoulder. I tried very hard to look smart, and he turned my shoulder very slowly until I faced right. I moved to that side. The significance of the finger game was explained to us in the evening. It was the first selection, the first verdict made on our existence or non-existence. For the great majority of our transport, go about 90%, it meant death. Okay, this is a very dark sentence. Like the people are compared to the transport. Like 90% of the transport were to be killed, and yeah. Their sentence was carried out within the next few hours. Those who were sent to the left were marched from the station straight to the crematorium. Like 90% were sent to the crematorium straight. This building, as I was told by someone who worked there, had the word bath written over its door in several European languages. On entering, each prisoner was handed a piece of soap and then, but mercifully, I do not need to describe the event which followed. Many accounts had been written about this horror. I don't know what this is about. We who were saved, the minority of our transport, found out the truth in the evening. I inquired from prisoners who had been there for some time where my colleague and friend P Dash had been sent. Was he sent to the left side? I said yes. I replied. Then you can see him there, I was told. Where? A hand pointed to the chimney a few hundred yards off, which was sending a column of flame up into the grey sky of Poland. It dissolved into a sinister cloud of smoke. That's where your friend is, floating up to heaven. Means he was like burned alive or whatnot, was the answer. But I still did not understand until the truth was explained to me in plain words. But I am telling things out of their turn. From a psychological point of view, we had a long way in front of us from the break of that dawn at the station until our first night rest at the camp. Escorted by SS guards with loaded gun, we were made to run from the station, past electrically charged barbed wire through the camp to the cleansing station. For those of us who had passed the first selection, this was a real bath. Again, our illusion of reprieve found confirmation. The SS men seemed almost charming. Soon we found out their reason. They were nice to us as long as they saw watches on our wrist and would persuade us in well-meaning tones to hand them over. Would we not have to hand over all our possessions anyway? And why should not that relatively nice person have the watch? Maybe one day he would do one a good turn. We waited in a shed, which seemed to be the anteroom to the disinfecting chamber. SS men appeared and spread out blankets into which we had to throw all our possessions, all our watches and jewelry. There were still naive prisoners among us who asked, to the amusement of the more seasoned ones who were there as helpers, if they could not keep a wedding ring, a medal, or a good luck piece. No one could yet gasp for the fact that everything would be taken away. So basically, some of the prisoners were like the prisoners' guards, basically SS officers, were behaving nicely to the people. And later, the author came to realize that this was because they wanted something like a watch or ring on their hand. And why not? Like, why not? They should have it, because if they may do some favor in return at a future course. And people wanted to keep some of the jewelry or like a wedding ring or something like a lucky charm with them, but they were not able to fathom that these all things will be taken away by these people. I tried to take one of the old prisoners into my confidence. Approaching him furtively, I pointed to the roll of paper in the inner pocket of my coat and said, "Look, this is the manuscript of a scientific book. I know what you will be saying. What you will say, that I should be grateful to escape with my life. That should be all I can expect of fate. But I cannot help myself. I must keep this manuscript at all costs. It contains my life's work. Do you understand that?" Yes, he was beginning to understand. A grin spread slowly over his face, first piteous, then more amused, mocking, insulting, until he followed one word at me in answer to my question. A word that was ever present in vocabulary of the camp inmate: shit. At that moment I saw the plain truth and did what marked the culminating point of the first phase of my psychological reaction. I struck out of my whole formal life. So this is the first realization of of the reality that was he was going through. It came at this moment when a prisoner in plain word, his reaction basically awaked or gave a reality check to the author that he should forget about the previous life and focus on this one right now. That was that he was facing the fate he was trying to evade. Suddenly, there was a stir among my fellow travelers who had been standing about with pale, frightened faces, helplessly debating. Again, we heard the hoarsely shouted commands. We were driven with blows into the immediate anteroom of the bath. There we assembled around an SS man who waited until we had all arrived. Then he said, I will give you 2 minutes and I shall time you by my watch. In these 2 minutes, you will get fully undressed and drop everything on the floor where you are standing. You will take nothing with you except your shoes, your belt or suspenders, and possibly a truss. I am starting to count now. With unthinkable haste, people tore off their clothes. As the time grew shorter, they became increasingly nervous and pulled clumsily at their underwear belts, shoelaces. Then we heard the first round of whipping, leather straps beating down on naked bodies. Next, we were herded into another room to be shaved. Not only our heads were shorn, but not a hair was left on our entire bodies. Then, onto the showers, we were lined up again. We hardly recognized each other, but with great relief, some people noted that the real water dripped from the sprays. While we were waiting for the shower, our nakedness was brought home to us. We really had nothing now except our bare bodies, even minus hair, all we possessed. Literally, our naked existence. What else remained for us as a material ring with our former lives? For me, there my glasses and my belt, the latter I had to exchange later on for a piece of bread. There was an extra bit of excitement in store for the owners of trusses. In the evening, the senior prisoner in charge of our hut welcomed us with a speech in which he gave us his word of honor that he would hang personally from the beam. From the beam, he pointed to it. Any person who had sewn money, precious stones into his truss. Proudly, he explained that as a senior inhabitant, the camp laws entitled him to do so. Where our shoes were concerned, matters were not so simple. Although we were supposed to keep them, those who had fairly decent pair had to give them up after all and were given in exchange shoes that did not fit. In for real trouble were those prisoners who had followed the apparently well-meant advice given in the anteroom of the senior prisoner that and had shortened their jackboots by cutting the tops off, smearing the soap on the cut edges to hide the sabotage. The SS men seem to have waited for just that. All suspected of this crime had to go into a small adjoining room. After a time, we again heard the lashing of the strap and the screams of tortured men. This time it lasted for quite a while. So, yeah, this is the first encounter of the camp where they were supposed to leave everything, including their hair, and they were naked in their existence, and they had to let go of everything that they amassed, let go of every idea of their former selves and their life. And it was quite traumatizing for the people to have a reality check that this is going to be not easy, and they have to endure these sort of pain and everything. So yeah, this is day 6th, I think, of my communication practice. Thanks, bye.